Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be going over 8 tips and tricks that you should know in order to give yourself the best chance possible at winning all 8 of your placement games for the start of season 10. So if we just jump right into number 1 here, it's going to be to not be afraid to dodge a placement game. I feel like a lot of players have this preconceived notion that they should never dodge in placements, but if you have a troll on your team, if the game looks completely unwinnable, it's fine to dodge one game. Dodging that one game is not going to affect your rank throughout the entirety of the season, but not dodging that game when you do have a troll on your team could affect your next couple of games, because if you end up losing with that troll, you could end up being really tilted. That could affect you in your next couple placement games, and then that one game that you didn't dodge could lead to a couple more losses. Now, I'm not 100% sure if your MMR is affected when you dodge in your placement games or not. I know that throughout the season, if you dodge a normal rank game, then your matchmaking rating is not affected at all, which is why it's a really good strategy to look to use to just preserve your MMR if you do have a really bad team or something. But I don't want to say for you to dodge like multiple placement games, because if it does actually affect your MMR, then you could end up getting placed like a lot lower than you would normally. So I would just say dodge if there's a troll on your team, and then I guess you guys could let me know down in the comments below if you know for sure if dodging does affect your MMR or does not affect your MMR in placements. So for tip number 2, it's going to be to make sure you're going into every single one of your games with a game plan and just analyze your win conditions. This is really easy for you to do at the start of every single game. When you get into champion select, just take a look at the champions on your team, take a look at the champions on the enemy team, look at your matchup, like understand what you have to do in your matchup in order to win or in order to survive. Analyze some early game scenarios, like if you get into a 2v2 or if you get into a 3v3, what could happen, what you need to do to win that, and also take a look at like the CC that the enemy team has, what you need to do in mid to late game fights in order for you to have the most success. And then I'll just give you guys an actual example here as to how I would look to just analyze and run down a loading screen. So in this game here, playing Bard with Misfortune down in the bot lane, we're going up against Vayne and Thresh. So in this lane here, we can play very aggressive. We know that if Thresh does not have hook, we can look to just move up in lane a ton. We can look to zone the Vayne from CS. We have a much better early game if Thresh's hook is down. Take a look at other champions as well. Like we got an Aurelion Sol on our team, so what the enemy team needs to realize is that they need to respect Aurelion Sol's roams. Like they need to be paying attention to that. I think this is one thing you always need to be looking at in the loading screen here. Like take a look at which champions have the ability to roam. Like if the enemy team has a Talon, an Aurelion Sol, a Kiana, like any champion that's going to just look to roam a ton. If they have like a Pantheon top lane, a Kled top lane, you just need to be aware of that. And you shouldn't be telling your team to ping missing or to like tell you when those champions are gone. You should just know that those champions are in the game, so you need to play accordingly. I'm pretty sure what actually ended up happening in this game is the Aurelion Sol just ganked bot lane level 3, and we just ended up snowballing off of that. So obviously the enemy bot lane didn't respect the Aurelion Sol roam early on. They probably didn't even notice there was Aurelion Sol in the game, so they just disrespected that. They shoved up in lane and they ended up dying for it. So another example here in this game, playing Echo going up against a Kiana, you can notice immediately she does have Predator as her keystone rune there. So immediately when I get into the game, I would just ping that out, let my team know that she does have the Predator. We do need to be aware of that. She's going to be rushing Moby boots, so she's going to be around the map very quickly. She's just going to try to perma shove and look to roam most likely. The enemy jungler is a Nidalee. We have a Jarvan, so the 2v2, as long as we can look to dodge out on the Nidalee spear, we should be able to win that. And if we just chain our CC, we should be able to win the 2v2 with Jarvan Echo up against Kiana and Nidalee. Later on in the game, I'm thinking about, okay, what do I do in team fights here? Going up against Varus and Morgana, so the Varus ultimate, I could get locked down very easily and end up dying. Morgana binds, so I gotta respect that in mid to late game fights. So just doing this, analyzing these loading screens, analyzing different scenarios throughout the game is really good, so that you're just not surprised when something happens in the game. So for number 3, it's going to be to just be proactive at level 1. So don't just be sitting in base for an extended period of time. Don't just be like sitting around doing nothing at level 1 before the game does start or before you go to lane. Look to make invade plays if you have a strong invade team. So if you got a Blitzcrank, a Morgana, a Braum, a Thresh, just any champion that can do a really good job at setting up a kill on an invade, then look to go for them. The very least that's going to happen on an invade play, if you do have a good invade team, is you're going to be able to get vision down and you're going to be able to track where the enemy jungler starts. At the very most, you're going to be able to get a couple kills, you're going to have the gold advantage, and you're also going to have that mental advantage, because if you invade the enemy team and the jungler ends up dying, like say right before his buff spawns, and he ends up just losing out on a ton of tempo in the early game, or if you're able to invade and steal his buff away, then he's going to be so tilted and you're just going to have that mental advantage to start off the game. Now, another thing you can look to do is if you are playing a very good early game skirmishing jungler, say you're playing something like Rengar in the jungle and you have like an Olaf top lane or a Darius top lane, if you got a really good level 1, then just look to invade the enemy's buff. Like if you're starting on blue side, just look to invade their red buff and just start their buff. I think one of the most tilting things for any jungler is for them to clear one side of their jungle, go to the other side, and just notice that their other buff is gone and all of their camps are gone on that side of the map. Doing this is even more important in season 10 here, because if you can steal away their buff, if you can 3-buff the enemy jungler, you're just going to be so far ahead of them because of the removal of ketchup XP. For number 4 is to just make sure you do have a champion pool and know how to play at least 2 roles before going into your placement games. I know a lot of players probably are going into their placement games and they haven't played maybe in a month or 2, or they just haven't played in maybe even a longer time than that, and they just they're not really practiced up on their champions, or not really practiced on their roles. So if that's you, then just make sure that make yourself a champion pool, choose like 2 or 3 champions for 2 roles that you can play well, practice those champions before you do head into rank to just ensure that you do give yourself the best chance to win. Now, I would really try to avoid just choosing a champion that fits your team composition's needs, and instead just play what you're good at. If you're picking a champion like for the first time, or if you just haven't played them in a long time just to fit your team comp's needs, then it's not going to go well for you a lot of the time. A really good thing to do is just diversify your champion pool. So instead of just picking like 3 assassins in your pool or something like that, say if you play jungle, instead of picking like Rengar and Kha'Zix as your 2 champions to main, pick something like, I don't know, Echo and Kha'Zix, or Echo and Rengar, so that you have like an AP and an AD jungler in your pool. Just try to diversify your pool a little bit so that you do have champions that can fit into different situations. So this next one is really big here if you are a player who does find themselves tilting in a lot of your games, or even if you don't tilt in a lot of your games, if you tilt every couple of games, like it's still really good to do, and that is hit the mute all button as soon as you enter a game. I've had so many players come to me and they ask me like, how can I stop tilting in my games? Like, what's the best way to prevent tilt? And I just tell them to mute all. They'll come back to me like a couple days or a week later and they'll tell me that it's drastically improved their game and it's just kept them a lot more focused in their games. And it's true, because if you find yourself like just focusing on what your team is saying in chat throughout the game, and you're using your energy to focus on that instead of focusing on like what you could be doing, what the next play is, how you could be looking to play out a scenario, then it's definitely going to affect your play. Even if you're a player who doesn't tilt a lot, if you're a pretty strong mental player, I would still look to do this, because 99% of the time, what your teammates will be saying in chat is going to be completely useless. Don't try and tell yourself, or the argument that a lot of people will say as to why they wouldn't want to mute all is because they're going to be missing out on like something that their team says that's going to be important. But don't tell yourself that, because 99% of the time, what they're saying is going to be completely useless, and it's just going to put your attention on chat instead of your attention on the game. So you can coordinate pretty much everything off of pings. You don't need the chat. So look to mute all in your games and just see how it does improve your play. For number 7, this is more of a cheesier one for sure, but it's one that can work wonders for you if you can use it at the correct time, and that is going to be to try and strategically tilt your opponents. Placement games are really important to a lot of players, and because of that, it's more likely for a player to tilt in placement games than it is for them to tilt in like a normal rank game. And if you can tilt the opponent, then it's just going to lead to so many mistakes from them throughout the game. So what you can look to do is that if you do end up killing your lane opponent, or they end up dying to a gank, just throw a question mark in all chat. The reason I say to use a question mark is because it takes very little time for you to do this. You don't lose any attention from the game by putting a question mark in alt chat. It's also not toxic, so you're not going to get banned or anything from this, but the amount that this can tilt the opponent is actually kind of insane. Like, you'd be surprised as to how tilting a question mark in alt chat is after you end up getting solo killed or after you end up getting ganked by the enemy laner. And what the enemy laner is going to be doing is they're going to be thinking about like something that they should say back to you in alt chat. They're going to lose their focus on the game and they're going to stop thinking about what they need to do to win the game. They're probably going to end up playing more aggressively too. Like, they want to get back at you now, so they're going to overextend in lane. They're going to be a very easy gank target for your jungler, and they're just going to keep dying over and over again. So it's a super easy way for you to just gain that mental advantage over your opponent. And then for number 8, just don't feel rushed to start your placement games. I know what a lot of players are going to do for the start of the season is they're just going to head right into their placements. They're not going to be prepared at all. They might have not played the game in a couple months. They'll end up losing most of their placement games, and then they'll wonder why they've lost, or they'll feel bad about themselves. So it's really easy for you to just practice up a little bit before you start your placement games. If you haven't played in a couple months, play some normals, play on a Smurf account, get your champion pool set so that you do give yourself the best chance to win. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. Good luck in your placement games for the start of season 10. Hopefully this video does now give you a better chance at winning more of your placement games when the season does start. So if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.